So, hey there, friends, and welcome to episode 207 of SelfKind with me, Erica Webb. Today, we are talking about self-care and what makes self-care more transformative rather than performative. All right, so self-care is self-care, right? Self-care is self-care is self-care, but is it really? What I have found is that self-care can either be transformative in the direction of the relationship that we want with ourselves and the way that we feel, or it can be quite performative and really not make much of a dent in how we feel in our everyday lives. So let's talk about the difference. When I say performative self-care, I don't really mean sort of performing for someone else, although that could be part of it. What I really mean is that when we engage in that self-care activity, it feels like we're just going through the motions, right? It's sort of like, well, I had the massage and I still feel like trash, or I ran myself a bath tonight and I'm still exhausted. All these things that perhaps feel like we're ticking a box, but not really making any movement in the direction that we want. And this is not uncommon, right? It is a sad but true fact that we want really quick answers to really big problems. And not even problems, because I don't think that you are a problem. Challenges is probably a better word, right? So we want quick fixes to our complex challenges. And transformative self-care really speaks more to the reality of what it's like to be a full human being and the complexities of that. Whereas performative self-care really kind of buys into that binary all or nothing thinking that we have, like do the self-care and I'll feel better. What tends to be more true is that we have a need to dig a little bit more under the surface when it comes to our relationship with ourselves to figure out like what do we need in order for that self-care to actually make a dent, have an impact on the way that we feel in our day-to-day. I spent years doing the performative self-care thing and wondering why, after all the, time that I spent with my friends and the massages that I had and the cups of tea that I sat and sipped, that I didn't really feel any better. And the reality was that because in the process of tending to these checkboxes of self-care, I was still treating myself in my head like trash. I was talking negatively to myself all the time. I didn't like who I was. I was harsh. I was critical. I was judgmental. And I had really high expectations for myself. And it wasn't until I went there and worked on that the self-care had any impact at all. And so that is kind of like the difference, right, between performative and transformative self-care. It's performative in the sense that it's just ticking a box, going through the motions. It's not really having an impact. Whereas transformative self-care, I'm not talking about overnight instant, results, but rather moving us more in the direction of a relationship that feels peaceful with ourselves. So over the past 13 years, I've been teaching movement. I started off as a yoga teacher, and over the time that has evolved into being more of a mindful movement coach. I use the modalities of yoga, Pilates, somatics. I incorporate that with pain science, nervous system research, all of that sort of stuff. And so I use that idea of mindful movement as a bit of an overall overarching concept. However, what I found over the years was that the physical things that tended to bring people to movement practices like yoga were very rarely isolated to being just purely body-based. There was always some sort of mental component that went with that, whether it be like current stress in the workplace or in the family, whether it be past trauma, injury, whether it be the way that we were something to do with the way that we were brought up, the beliefs that we have about ourselves and our place in the world, all of that stuff. There was never any there was very rarely anything that was just purely body-based. And when I was at university, my degree that I left university with was a degree in behavioral science. And so I've always, approached movement and my teaching through that lens that has human behavior at the heart of it. And the way that we relate to ourselves, the way that our brains work has always kind of been in there. And what I found over the years, as I sort of noticed this pattern of like, oh, this isn't just body stuff, right? And yoga really speaks to this, because yoga is not a body-based practice, even though that's what we're most used to seeing. Yoga is a philosophy. Yoga is so much deeper than just physical movement. And a lot of what yoga philosophy teaches is really similar to behavioral science, funnily enough. And so I always had that kind of lens. But what I realized was that I wanted more skill, and dare I say even authority, in working with people with that side of things. I wanted to be able to kind of with authority say, like, I can support you with your mental health here, this mental well-being piece that is so integral to what you're feeling in your body. And so I took that behavioral science degree and I added to it with qualifications in counselling. And now I'm a registered counsellor, which I have been for a little while. And you've heard me talk about this if you've been listening for any length of time. But it took me a little while to sort of figure out how I wanted to combine these approaches, right? Or combine these skills to really help people in the best way I possibly could. And I finally think that I've figured it out. In fact, I know that I've figured it out, at least for now. Things always evolve, right? But one of the things that I want to take the time to do in this episode, talking about, the difference between performative and transformative self-care, is to share with you a little bit about how I'm working with people now, and how it can really support you with that transformative piece. So we're going to dive into that. One of the things that, like I said, one of the things that was really important to me was to be able to combine this body-mind work in a way that makes a lot of sense and in a way that feels pretty seamless. Not that anything in life feels very seamless, just a side note, but in a way that is connected and that kind of draws from one to the other. And so that is what I'm doing more and more of inside my online platform called the SelfKind Hub. And what I've done in recent days, weeks, is created 2 different ways of working with me inside the SelfKind Hub. So if you've been listening for a little while, you'll know that I've been offering one-on-one counseling sessions, and I'm no longer offering those in the way that I was. So I'm no longer taking on just sort of pure counseling clients or holistic counseling clients. I'm actually incorporating it into the SelfKind Hub platform. So there's 2 ways that people can work with me going forward. And I want to tell you about both of them and which one you might be able to sort of hear for yourself, which one feels like a good fit for you, if either of them at all. So inside the SelfKind Hub, it's more of like a DIY version of what I offer. I'm there, of course, and we have a community that I'm very, present in and can answer questions. But this is where the tools live. This is where the movement classes are. This is where the master classes take place. This is where the guided audio and guided worksheets and guided things exist, so that you can approach your self-care, your well-being through whatever kind of practices feel like they fit for you at the moment. We have a class of the day that goes into that hub. We have regular live stream classes together so that we can come together and practice together. And like I said, those monthly masterclasses where we go really in depth on various body-mind tools, techniques, theories. So some of the ones that we've done recently include a masterclass all about breathing and the value of different breath practices. We did one on anxiety, managing that through movement and mind-based practices. We've done recent ones on pain, managing persistent pain. So we go into a lot of depth in those masterclasses. So SelfKind Hub members get access to all of that. Then I've created something brand new, which is SelfKind Hub Plus. So it's everything that I just talked about, plus one 1-hour session with me every month. So they're personalized private sessions where the counseling and the coaching comes into play. So now, instead of it just being a DIY process, which is hugely valuable if that's the right fit for you, this becomes a place where we can work together to support you in working through some of that other stuff that we talked about, around the beliefs that might be impacting your capacity to show up in more transformative ways for yourself rather than just that performative element. We can navigate those difficulties that so many of us face in our day-to-day, whether it be the way that persistent pain is sort of interfering with our ability to show up for self-care in the way that we want to, whether it has to do with, our perceived roles in our families and our workplace, the kind of things that are feel like they're kind of like in the way of our ability to be in a kinder, more compassionate, more loving relationship with ourselves. And so it gives you that opportunity to talk through this stuff and for me to offer a really supportive environment to work through it. I can also then help you tailor what you're using from the SelfKind Hub to most effectively kind of meet you where you need to be met, given, what's going on for you at the time. So these SelfKind Hub Plus memberships I'm super, super excited about because it brings together the best of the mindful movement and this holistic counseling piece that together can really kind of move us, people, humans, in the direction of that more nurturing version of self-care rather than it simply being performative. So let me tell you about how you can apply if you'd like to. Yes, there is an application process involved in SelfKind Hub Plus memberships. For the base level SelfKind Hub membership, there's absolutely no application process. The link will be in the show notes. The link is on my website. Super easy to join. You get access straight away. With the SelfKind Hub Plus, I am taking applications for that now. I have a limited number of spots just because I have a limited number of, waking hours in the day to work with people. And so I am taking applications just to, make sure that I feel like I am in a position to help support you, in the place that you're at. I get back to applications within 48 hours and then we, get to work, get into it. I will pop the link to that application in the show notes. But what I do want to tell you before the end of this month, which if you're listening to this live, we're approaching the end of May, and I'm raising my prices in June, which I haven't done for a really, really long time. The last time I put up prices inside the hub was like truly so long ago, I don't even remember. And I am putting those prices up in June. So the way that I make things work in my world, my little online world, is that when people sign up to work with me, for the length of time that they stay working with me, the price that they signed up at is locked in. If they cancel and then rejoin, then they join at whatever the rate is at the time. But for that period of time when people sign up, they get to lock in their price. And so I want to make sure that I give you the opportunity to do that before I raise my prices. So at the moment, the SelfKind Hub is $49 a month to join. Come the 4th of June, that is going up to $99 a month. This is Australian dollars. So if you're in the US or overseas, you can figure out that conversion. The SelfKind Hub Plus membership is currently $169 Australian dollars a month. And on the 4th of June, that's going up to $219 per month. So I want to just make sure that I give you that information before the price just magically, changes overnight. I want to make sure I give you that opportunity, but there's absolutely no urgency. There's no cutoff. There's no deadline. However, if you know that this could be supportive for you, if you are curious and keen to get started, then there would be value in doing that before the 4th of June. All right, I am going to leave it there. I hope that you are excited about these SelfKind Hub Plus memberships. I'm really excited about them. It's very rare for me to spend a lot of time on a podcast episode talking about what I how I work with people. And so this episode has been very much dedicated to that. So thank you for sticking with me if you have been listening. I'm really, really excited about how this work fits together. And so I'm super excited, super keen to read your application if you pop one through. If you have questions, come and find me. You can find me over on Instagram. I'm at Erica Webb _SelfKind. You can email me as well, erica@ericawebb.com.au. Super happy to answer any questions. We can hop on a call too if you wanted to sort of ask questions face to face. And until next week, keep being kind to yourself. I'll talk to you soon.